fortunate, I think, for all of us to run into this practice, because so much of other teachings in the world, just the normal way society sort of encourages people to live, is often might be satisfying to the individual to a certain extent, but it's often not helpful, not based on the truth. And if it doesn't make a problem for you, often can make a problem for others. So this reflecting back, turning the light back, as JUN said, very, very important. And the fastest way to do that is live together with others in a practicing environment. There can be times when, for somebody staying in that practicing environment a long time, maybe it's good to deal with the everyday life. Lay people have that, and many choose to come and spend time practicing together with others. And it's important for Sanims not to get complacent when, what does complacent mean? Like kind of relax, you know the situation and you can make it through and people help you and support you. But to keep our practice and our questioning sharp. That's very important and valuable. Otherwise, we're just giving up one social life for another social life, and that's not the point. So everybody looks good. Energy here feels really good. So does anybody have any questions? Any kind of question? Hanan.
In your book, right in the beginning, you talked about this forest that basically that most of its nutrition comes from not the air and sun, but from within the dead matter of the trees. And then you talked about how we need to use our dead karma and learn how to digest and use it. So my question is, what does dead karma mean, and how do we digest and use it?
Yeah. What I mean by that is habits that we either aren't aware of or we're just doing automatically, habits that we follow. Say this lifetime, Musangsa said, what would I do if I were a young person during the Nazi occupation of France? And she said her habit would be just to run. Well, maybe that's wise. Maybe another situation appears where do something forward would be good. If we really have a center and if our mind's clear, then I think we can connect moment to moment, regardless of what our sort of habitual character way of dealing with something. We can, even if we do that, quickly we can learn that another way might be more effective. But when we're not aware of where our habits or our thinking is coming from, often we create samsara. In America right now, there's a thing among very conservative right-wing whites. It's called the Great Replacement Theory, that white people will be replaced by non-white people, okay? And it's a driving force from those who just think about it and talk about it and try to do some politics, all the way to people who take guns and kill people. It's a very strong thing. But what's the root? It's such a natural psychological inversion because Europeans came to America and replaced the native people. That's what white people did. And whether I lived at that time or not, being a white American, I'm the beneficiary of that. And if you can't acknowledge that this is the thing, then unless you have an open heart, you will naturally develop a fear for the very thing happening to you that you did to others. So unless you investigate your thinking and your actions, where does that come from? Where does that come from? You'll never see it. You may never see it unless some moment shocks you. I read about some of the demonstrations. This is more than about a year ago, I think, in London. I think it was in London where I think many of the black British people were protesting something, and some very right-wing British whites were protesting against them. And something happened where one big guy, white guy, collapsed. And everybody was running and stuff. And this very large black British man went over, picked up this big guy, threw him on his shoulder, and ran into the white area where they were helping people and delivered him there to take him to a hospital. And they met later, and that changed the white guy's mind. And they asked the black guy, why'd you do that? And he said, well, we're protesting so that everybody in our society could feel good and feel accepted. And I saw this guy collapse, so yeah, I have to help him. So and that woke that guy up from his opposite thinking, habitual, unexamined, support of his own personal situation. So sometimes a particular event will occur that causes us to wake up. But many times it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Only if you're reflecting back again, some moment you see it. Because there's a lot of energy in those habits. And literally, a lot of it is even stored in the brain. Like they found with people who have addictions, the way to help them out of it isn't with punishment. Punishment never works. What works is substituting another something healthier that lights up the reward area, because that's what's driving it. There's almost like you can imagine in a plateau, water has dug down a channel in the plateau. So naturally, whenever it rains, the water goes down there. It's like we've created in our brain, in our body, circuits. And whenever something comes in, it just goes into that circuit unless we make an effort to see it and reroute it. And then we digest that habit and it changes. In fact, you can become more free, see things more clearly, and make decisions and do things based on a much clearer, natural view of reality, without even saying to yourself, oh, now I see things better, oh, this is real. So our body has emotional memory in it. The cells do, and unless we really bring the energy back in, we don't digest it. For example, somebody eats a lot of junk, okay? Then the cells take some of that in and they make something with it and some waste product appears. And if you keep eating, the cell doesn't have the energy to send it out. So it's like the garbage builds up inside the body, inside the cells. But if you start to fast or modify your eating, then the cell gets rested and can throw out the garbage into the bloodstream. And then through the bloodstream, it comes out the stuff that's not helping you with the breath, peeing, shitting. It comes out and the cells are freer and they can do their function. If you do that constantly, overdo with unhealthy things, all that crap builds up inside, sicknesses occur, And you're more than likely, unless you're a very clear person, to have very unhelpful thoughts and unhelpful energy for yourself and others. In the same way, our mind is the same way. So we have habits in our mind, in our thinking. And if we don't see it, then we just go right down that crevice in the rock whenever something's happening, okay? So, but if you digest that, that energy's totally free. In a deciduous forest, this is mostly a deciduous forest, a very high-class forest, but it has maybe more pine trees than a fully deciduous forest. Pine trees aren't deciduous. The leafy trees are. But I've read 70% of the energy in those trees comes from the dead matter breaking down and the new trees taking the nutrients, you know, like that. And, you know, it's very funny because nature does it very well. A tree falls down and slowly over a period of time it rots. And a lot of other things get nutrition from it. Human beings, it's not so bad if you stick the body in the ground, it will break down slowly. But we put it in a box that makes it almost never break down. Like we want to use it again. I mean, do you really? Oh, God brought me back to life. But I look like I've been dead for 40 years. You know, who's going to, even a mother couldn't love it. You know? I like Buddhist idea. Just burn the thing, let all the chemicals go back to the universe and forget about it. It's already no good. I mean, do you keep everything that no longer works? Do you keep that? How many of your old hand phones do you still have? Your old computers. What's the point of keeping it? If you take it someplace where they take it apart, get out the things that are useful, and recycle the rest, that's great. So same thing with karma, with mind karma. Same exact thing. So reflecting back constantly, then you'll see a thought that appears. And it can be surprising. You know, I usually don't think I have particular karma. I guess my position, was not a motivation for me. I was suffering. I just wanted to get out of suffering. And I felt Sun Sansin could show me how. And he shoved me into a few pathways, which helped me learn a lot. And, you know, so they involve sometimes getting some title and stuff, which is of a, you know, okay, I learn a lot, but come on, you know, whatever. So anyway, one day, years ago, I was up at the Buddha Hall, and I was about to bow and go in the middle door, and I think it was a Korean nun walked right in front of me, and this thought appeared. Why did she walk in front of me? Or she shouldn't walk in front of me. I was shocked at myself. What kind of a thought is that? You know, it's like, what? I think that's the only time I can remember thinking about my position, you know. But it horrified me because that's not my goal in life, is to have that kind of mind. It's not a healthy mind, you know. So if you're not reflecting back, you know, then that stuff appears. You don't see it. You just act on it. You know, in some situations, maybe it's correct. One time, Sun Sansin didn't have that mind, because otherwise he would have left the West after 6 months. You know, because nobody was like, oh, you're Koreans. Oh, Kun Sanim. Nobody was like that with him. You know, Kun Sanim. One time I heard in the first Zen Center, the guys got together and said, let's see if we can throw Sun Sansin down on the floor. You know, they got this idea like, do all Zen masters, do they know Kung Fu or Taekwondo or something, you know? And so they, like, 4 or 5 guys jumped on him and tried to throw him down on the ground. They told me he threw everybody off, but he didn't have any training in any of that stuff. You know, he had some natural agility and confidence and stuff. But, you know, in Korea, if you guys came in and tried to throw me around, well, try it. Let's see what happens. Actually, with our crew, I think you could get away with it. But with some of the big Polish monks, they jump on you and punch you, you know. But Sansanim didn't have anybody who would stand up for him in America at first, you know, but he was willing to deal with all that. Yeah. So, but one time I remember he's showing Maizumi Roshi, the Zen master, around Hwagisa, and they get to the Nahanjan. If you go up there, you can visit it. It's got 500 like little arahats, little statues, and they're all different. I used to keep my extra room key under one of them, you know, and because I, you know, thought sometime I'll lock my door, I won't have my key, so I know it's in the Nahanjan, over this guy with the really big ears, you know, because they all look different. And there was a picture of Kobang Sanim, Sungsan Sanim's teacher, in there too. And Sungsan Sanim and Maizumi Roshi were leaning in, and Sansanim was telling him in English, you know, oh, that's my teacher over there. And a Korean nun who was with us, a young Korean nun, stuck her head right in front of Maizumi Roshi, you know, which was not correct, not polite. And Sansanim just went whop on the head, you know, and she went back and she knew she was wrong and she went hapchang. But I thought he wouldn't do that to most Westerners unless you were a very close student. But this nun knew that was correct. You know, so I was sort of standing behind them and I saw that and I saw her reaction. She wasn't upset. She was like, yes, sir. You know, America would be like, if you were a close student and he did that, you know he had a reason. Later you might figure it out. One time we were going out to some Korean person's house he was invited to. He took me and Dae Sanim in Los Angeles. Dae Sanim was driving. And we pulled up to a fruit market, and Sansanim told me, gave me some money, said, you go in there and buy some high-class fruit. So I went in and I bought the most expensive fruit, whatever it was. I think that time it was, what's the thing that begins with a P? Mangoes and papaya and stuff like that, really fancy fruit and, you know, really fancy. And I walked to the car in a black plastic bag. And Sansanim looks at me like I'm the stupidest person on the planet. And he goes and he says, you look like you're taking them to garbage. Well, Koreans use black plastic bags to carry out the garbage. And I was like, you know, I felt really bad. And then I get in the car, then he becomes kind of nice and he says, in Korea, box more important than inside. You know, the presentation is more important than what's in the gift, you know. But anyway, I learned something, you know, but of course I sat in the back seat thinking, well, I didn't know, you know, to myself, I didn't know that's a Korean thing. And it, of course, later on I saw people buy fruit and it's in a basket, it's got plastic and ribbons and it's nice, you know. So, I trust my teachers. So, yeah, digest our karma and pew!
Just how you say about you see the thinking. What do you do after you see your thinking?
Put it down. Don't attach. And one day, you'll learn something from it. Yeah. If you hold it, even if you go, oh, that was no good, I shouldn't think like that, that's more thinking. Oh, that was bad. Oh, my practice isn't very good. You know, that's your seventh consciousness, you know, talking and just making more thinking. Just put it down. If you can't put it down, mantra, whatever your usual practice is.
Should I try to forget it?
You don't need to. Just put it down. And one day you won't forget, but it won't control you. If you really digest things, you'll learn from them. If it's worth it, you know, I didn't think of that particular thing up in the Buddha Hall with me for 5, 6 years now. But something came up here that appeared. You know, that you notice some thinking that suddenly appears. That's your mind. Yeah. Most important, just put it down. One day, if it appears, you'll really see it clearly. And then if it becomes zero, it doesn't matter whether you forget it or not. It's become yours. You've learned that. It's not a matter of whether what are you going to write it in the book? Like, oh no, this is some of my bad. You could have a bad karma page and a good karma page, and then every night you could read it. Oh, I got to watch out for these things. Oh, these are good, And let me see, this is a little longer list on the bad page and the good page, Well, I got to watch out for this and this. If it's your karma, you're going to do it again, That's why Kobongsan said, don't check your karma, make your practice strong. But if you're looking, you will see it. You don't have to, I think it's automatic. If you have don't know mind, if you keep questioning, you don't have to hunt for it, I mean, when you really wake up is when something smacks you in the face. And then it's like, whoa. Question from the man in the chair.
My question, is asking who or what am I the most effective way of keeping don't know mind? Or is there some sort of moment-to-moment, situational don't know?
Can you repeat your question?
Well, effectively, what is the best way to keep a don't know mind?
Who are you? Right now you don't know. So you want to keep coming back to that. So Sungsanti never taught people to sit and say, what am I? Don't know. He felt people get lost. They make something because the original big... also he said, the true big question is no question. It has no words. That's built up by habit, okay? By realizing I make I. What is that? I mean, you can begin really easy. Male. Your body's male. Is that you? It's just your body. That's all. Your body has what we call a male body. It's not you. So you can start looking. One time I was driving the Temple van in Los Angeles, and I had heard a story, and in the story there was a phrase, woman's happiness. So I happened to be driving the van by myself, so I'm kind of up high off the road, and this thought comes into my head, what's woman's happiness? Now, I could have, of course, explored what I thought that might be, but instead I thought, well, I'm a man, so what's man's happiness? And then this thought came up, well, your true self isn't man or woman, so what's your true self's happiness? And suddenly I saw very clearly the gray road and the speedometer said 45. And like in one simple view, the road's gray, I'm driving 45 miles an hour, pay attention. That's your true self's happiness. I didn't even add that other thing. That was the answer to the question, what's your true self's happiness? Now, pay attention. Pay attention is don't know mind, if you're not holding any idea. So when we sit, one possibility is you're just watching your breath or counting breaths. Just try and do it. Any thinking that comes up, you made, not necessary for the situation. Not bad or good, just, you see your habit, okay? If you see your habit, that's already don't know. If you add to it, like, that's bad, that's good, that's thinking. So you have to recognize what is thinking. Then another way, and then come back to just breath. I was away by myself for 5 days, and there was a big rock in front of where I was sitting. And so sometimes I would sit out there. And the way I sit now is breathing's my, awareness of breath is my main practice, and I do the Great Dharani, but my attention is really on my breath. And what I do, it's interesting, is, for me it's interesting, I move one bead with every breath. And of course, practicing in here, you follow the time. But I don't follow the time. When I complete one thing around, I've done 108 breaths, then I get up and move. And it's usually about 40 minutes, you know. And so I don't know what went on while I was there. I was just breathing, and occasionally the birds, as the sun went down, the birds were flying around a lot. It might have been just them messing with each other, or, you know, what's this guy doing here? Because really, I didn't see any other people for 5 days. I almost never heard a voice from the village below. I think I heard dogs. One afternoon, I heard a couple dogs. So really, the only thing I heard was the wind and the birds, you know. And no matter what was appearing in my brain, or anywhere, even my body, it just came back to the breath and mantra. So you see yourself thinking, if you have mantra, bring your energy back to mantra. Sometimes strongly, like, shut up, not now. You know, you start some story in your brain, not now, and mantra. And other times you have to do it more gently, you know, that's how you do it. And when you're doing something, do it. So sitting time, if your practice is mantra, do it. That's your correct situation, sitting and mantra. Everything else is unnecessary. You're making something. My knee hurts, my back hurts. When is this going to end? Why does it hurt? You know, yeah, it's true those things can be a big part of our practice, but that's all making something, you know. So just come back. As we say, you know, in our style, if you have too much pain and you really, all you can think about is the pain, bow, stand up, and continue your practice. So the don't know mind means when you're doing something, just do it. So it's sitting time, do your sitting practice. You can see how much of the time can you do that. Most of us probably spend a lot of time thinking or just spacing out, you know, falling asleep or something. Chanting time, just chant, but you can see for yourself, I chant and thinking something, you know. And the same thing, you're working in the kitchen, just do it. But you see, thinking appears. So don't know mind and just do it are two phrases for the same thing. Don't know means don't attach to my understanding, even my idea of I. And just do it means your body, your mind, and the situation completely become one. If you have any attachment to any I, not possible. But we try. So maybe in the beginning, don't know mind, just do it 20%, and the rest is all thinking, karma, habit, you know. But if you keep trying, it's like this. And then that mind starts appearing more naturally. Okay? So that's why sometimes he says, try. You know, the instruction that Sungsantanim used to always give when people were starting meditation was, you know, your body position. Try to be aware of your breath. Actually, in the beginning, he didn't talk much about breath. He started to do that later on, towards 1980, because he thought, I think he felt, he even said, the world is changing faster now, so more quickly cut our thinking is necessary. Then he taught awareness of breath as you sat, okay? But he would teach, as you breathe in, so you're aware you're breathing in, clear mind, 3 times. As you breathe out, don't know, long. one time. So maybe 3 seconds in, 7 seconds out, or 5 seconds in, 10 seconds out. So that, and I think there was a reason he used those words. If you don't know, put it all down. The next thing coming in is clear. You know, this is black, that's yellow, and the microphone, you know, keep it in the right position. It's clear. Dharma talk time. So I think that's why he did that, because people are looking for enlightenment or clear mind. They don't even know. It's very concrete in a way. So he gave us this, try to clarify our intellectual process. Clear mind, don't know. Plus giving us a tool to bring our attention to, rather than just letting our habit run freely all the time. That won't help. So, but if you do that, in the beginning, wow, that's nice, you know, clear mind, don't know. And then after a while, it's like, this is so boring, you know. You see all your mind that appears, or this is stupid. Maybe Kwanzaa Boso would be better. One time I asked Sansanim, I think he had given me gate, paragate. And in the car we were driving somewhere, and I said, we had just done a Kwanzaa Boso Keto, so I'm chanting with everybody 12 hours a day for 3 days. So it was really in my mind. So I said, Santini, can I change my mantra to Kwanzaa Boso? And then one of the older students said, maybe he'll say yes, but you can only change one time in this life. And that made me think like, okay, whatever. Gate, paragate. Later, Sansini told me, you do great Dharani. But that was much later when my mind was more, you know, where I could actually do the mantra, at least during sitting, and do it, not get lost after 5 syllables. Where in the beginning, I probably would have just gotten lost. So be sure you know what you're trying to do when you sit. Yeah, that's very helpful. And if you don't know, then only go straight to no. But some people, they just I just let my mind go anywhere, and, you know, listen to the sound. It's possible, but you have to do it in some disciplined way or your habits will control. So we didn't recommend, what am I, don't know. And if you do a mantra, that's really interesting too, because, you know, Santini told me 3,000 gate, paragate, 3,000 times every day. And of course he says, it's the great transcendent mantra, the great bright mantra, the transcendent mantra, the utmost mantra, the supreme mantra. And then I realized he's just regurgitating the Heart Sutra. You know, we're on the phone, and it's like, Sansanim, everything looks the same, you know, and because I understand your mind. Your mind is mantra practicing. You know, you must do gate, paragate, pasangate, bodhisvaha every day, 3,000 times. And then he just recites basically the Heart Sutra. Like, this is the greatest mantra, the utmost mantra, the perfect mantra. And it's like, okay, I don't really need that part of the thing. But, you know, he's just trying to say, oh, it's so great, you'll believe, you know, if you believe it, you'll try it more. I was just like, okay. And then I found 3,000 was hard. It was hard to do 3,000 a day, you know. I'd have to get to night, and it was like, you know, I got to do more. Or we'd be sitting, and I'd think, oh man, I'm really cooking. I must have done 1,000. And I look at my thing like 223. It's like, what have I been doing for the last 2 hours? You know, I thought I was doing mantra, you know. And then after a couple of years, I was thinking, I'm so sick of these numbers. I got to get a certain number. And I asked Sansanim, he said, do it, which could have meant anything. You know, really, it just meant do it, you know. And then at some point where I really did it quite a lot, even in everyday situations, my mind would naturally start going there. And when I was working, and I'd be aware, you know, like, what are you thinking for now? Mantra, you know. Then I realized at that point, number didn't matter. Just do it whenever you're able to. And then it appeared in dream too. That was really cool, you know. It's like something horrible has happened. Oh, I know. Gate didn't appear. What appeared is this woman let go of my hand and fell off a cliff. And I was shocked. She was falling down. There was a river below and land. And part of my mind was, hit the water, hit the water. And I shouted to her, chant Kwanzaa Bolsa. And I'm chanting Kwanzaa Bolsa, Kwanzaa Bolsa, Kwanzaa Bolsa, chant Kwanzaa Bolsa. And in the dream, right before she hit, she swoops up like, Supergirl and lands right behind me. And in the dream, everything's filled with energy. And I remember thinking, now she'll believe practicing, And it was a woman who was here as Hangja and in the process of deciding to not be a nun and leave. It's very interesting how it appeared in the dream. She's on this edge of a cliff and she let go of my hand. But even in the dream, I'm telling her, practice! So very interesting. But years for me, and then it started to appear by itself because I constantly was trying to come back to that mind. Yeah. So when you're doing something, do it. That is don't know mind. Okay? Which means when you're sitting, do your practice. And everything else is I. But what am I? I made this thinking. So once in a while you can ask yourself, what am I? Or if you're doing mantra, who's doing mantra? Or if you're doing keto, every once in a while you ask yourself, who's chanting? And that puts that question, and that question will go in there. I mean, you came to practicing actually, whether you know it or not, because you had a question. And if that gets stronger, it just appears in life more often. Sometimes that happens to people who aren't practicing. Their relationship is horrible and some big shock happens and it's like, what is this? If it's not just a question that has an opinion in it, but a real, like, what's going on? What's going on here? And you can find these stories about people, they're not practicing. I read this article, this woman writes a letter to her daughter who's getting married. And she and her husband were in love, they got married, and then they have a hard time for about 20 years. And, he would go away on business and he'd come back, and almost always she'd meet him at the door because of something he didn't do, and they'd have a fight. She'd start complaining and he'd say, I just come home and look, you're yelling at me. And then he'd yell at her. And it was both of their faults, And suddenly, one time he's going away and she says, don't take the garbage can out to the road. Leave it here and then I'll take it out at the right time. And he goes away and sure enough, the garbage can is out by the road. So for 3 days, she's thinking, what was that about? There he is again. He doesn't listen to me, and he does all these little things all the time. And he comes home, but after these 3 days, because she's not just complaining to herself, she's thinking like, what's going on in this relationship? And so when he comes home, instead of attacking him with a question, she said, why'd you take the garbage can out to the road? This time she's curious. And he said, oh, I heard it was going to snow and I didn't want you to have to walk out through the snow with the can. And she suddenly realized, and she writes this to her daughter, your father and I have different ideas about love. I felt love meant, okay, I've got this security, I'm free. And he feels love means doing little things for your partner that will make life easier. And she never saw it that way, and he didn't see it her way. But suddenly, because over these 3 days, instead of just complaining to herself, she got a real question. It wasn't a practicing person, but when I read that, I thought, that's cool. That's don't know mind, So there's a few techniques. They're all basically the same thing. So be clear what you're trying to do when you sit. And if you're not sure, talk to Tan Wal Sanim or me. Because then it's very obvious when I can't do that. Oh, I do that about 10% of the time, then 90% I'm doing other stuff. That's okay. If you see that, that's where you're at. That's this moment. And then try, it changes by itself over time. You know, something happens between a guy and a girl. Maybe she breaks up with, oh, here's one. I saw it in the news a couple months ago. This woman who's a mountain biker and considered one of the best in the world, 25 years old, goes home and gets shot. Nobody's quite sure who did it. And then they realize it's this other mountain biker who's about 35, and the two of them were involved with the same guy. But the young one was only involved for a week or two when the guy and the woman, they have a 3-year relationship, decided to take a break from the relationship. But the guy dropped the affair and got back with this woman. But this woman must have been running it through her brain. You know, it's all, that part of his relationship with the young one's already over. You know, but she's running it through her brain. This is, I don't know, but when I read this, it was just like, and a few months of that, and one day she shows up at the house. Of course, the woman opens the door, she knows her, shoots her a few times and leaves. And they caught her, you know. And because instead of, you know, trying to do mantra, try to understand what's going on, how come I have this, you know, this, not looking back at myself, just running the thing. That's the difference between practicing. Even the other woman, she got this question. What is going on in our relationship? But instead of attacking, she asked. You know, and so do that with yourself. You know, when you feel like you're attacking yourself, what is going on here? Try. You're here for the retreat, so you got a lot of opportunity to try. Okay, so we're all here for retreat, and everybody seems to be doing it. That's what it looked like. When I started the talk, when Musangsa, everybody's face looked bright. Now you all look like, I'm surprised at myself because 3 days I didn't say, 5 days I didn't say anything, and I thought, well, I got nothing to say now. But I guess that karma doesn't change much. One day if I'm quiet, then you'll be like, oh, finally. Okay, so you already appreciate the situation. Do it. Thank you very much.